On a bright morning, a strange light appeared in the sky over a small town. People looked up, pointing and whispering. Some thought it was a shooting star, while others worried it might be an airplane. But as the light got closer, they saw it was something much more unusual. It was a spaceship, shining with colors that danced in the sunlight. Inside the spaceship, Zinar, an alien from a distant planet, watched the Earth below with wide eyes. Zinar was curious about humans and wanted to learn everything about them. This was the first time Zinar had ever traveled to another planet, and it was both exciting and scary. The alien was green with big, round eyes and a long, thin body. Zinar had studied humans from afar, but now wanted to experience their world firsthand. As the spaceship landed softly in a field, a group of scientists approached, holding their breath in awe. They had been waiting for this moment for years. The leader of the group, Dr. Emily Rivers, stepped forward. She was a kind woman with short brown hair and glasses perched on her nose. "Welcome to Earth," she shouted, waving her arms. The other scientists cheered and clapped, eager to meet the alien. Zinar opened the door of the spaceship and stepped out. The sunlight glinted off its smooth skin, and the humans gasped. Zinar looked around, fascinated by the green grass and colorful flowers. The smells of Earth were strange but delightful. Zinar smiled, revealing rows of small, sharp teeth. "Hello, humans," Zinar said, its voice sounding like a mix of music and bubbles. The scientists exchanged amazed glances. They had prepared for this moment, but hearing the alien speak was magical. Dr. Rivers stepped closer. "I'm Dr. Emily Rivers. Thank you for coming to our planet. We are excited to learn from you." Zinar nodded, understanding the importance of this meeting. The team guided Zinar to the research facility nearby. The facility was a large, white building filled with equipment and labs. The scientists showed Zinar their tools and explained how they worked. Zinar was amazed by the technology, but also confused. It had never seen such machines before. "Do you have machines like these?" Dr. Rivers asked. Zinar shook its head. "We use different ways to learn and communicate," it replied, its voice bubbling with excitement. As they walked through the facility, Zinar noticed pictures on the walls. They showed humans of all ages, from babies to the elderly, smiling and laughing. The alien felt a strange warmth in its chest. "Humans have many forms," Zinar said, pointing at a picture of a baby. "How do you create life?" Dr. Rivers smiled, knowing this was the key question. "We reproduce in a special way," she explained. "Let me show you." They entered a lab where Dr. Rivers had prepared a presentation. On the screen, images of human reproduction appeared. Zinar watched closely, intrigued but also puzzled. The scientists explained how humans needed both a male and a female to create a baby. Zinar's eyes widened at the complexity of it all. "Interesting," Zinar said. "But why do you do this? What is the purpose?" Dr. Rivers thought for a moment. "We want to create families and continue our species. It's part of life on Earth." Zinar nodded slowly, trying to understand. As the day went on, the alien observed the humans. They laughed, shared stories, and worked together. Zinar was amazed at how humans interacted. The way they showed kindness and care for one another was new and beautiful. During lunch, the scientists gathered around a big table. They invited Zinar to join them. At first, the alien was unsure. It had never eaten human food before. But the scientists offered it a simple meal of sandwiches and fruit. Zinar hesitated, then took a bite. The flavors were surprising. "This is delicious," it exclaimed, feeling happy. After lunch, the team decided to take Zinar outside. They walked through the field where the spaceship had landed. The sky was blue, and the sun shone brightly. Zinar ran its hands through the grass, feeling the soft blades tickle its fingers. Suddenly, a group of children appeared, drawn by the excitement. They stared at Zinar with wide eyes, a mix of wonder and fear. Zinar knelt down to their level and waved. "Hello, little ones," it said in a cheerful tone. The children giggled and stepped closer, their fear melting away. One brave girl, Sarah, stepped forward. "Can you fly?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Zinar smiled and stood up. "I can show you." It took the children's hands and lifted off the ground slightly, hovering above them. The kids squealed with joy, jumping and laughing. As the sun began to set, Zinar felt a deep sense of belonging. It had come to learn about humans, but it was also learning about friendship and love. This journey was just beginning, and Zinar could not wait to explore more. Learning about humans. After the exciting first day, Zinar felt eager to learn more about humans. The scientists had shown it kindness, and now Zinar wanted to understand everything about human life. The next morning, Dr. Rivers and her team gathered to plan the day's activities. "We need to show Zinar how we live and what makes us unique," Dr. Rivers said, looking at her colleagues. Everyone nodded, excited about the task ahead. They decided to start with something simple: human families. In the morning, they took Zinar to a nearby park where families were having fun. Children played on swings, while parents sat on benches, chatting and laughing. Zinar watched closely, its big eyes taking in every detail. "Why do they play?" Zinar asked, pointing at a group of children running around. Dr. Rivers smiled. "Playing helps children learn and grow. It's also a way to make friends." Zinar was fascinated. It had never seen such joy before. The alien watched as two children shared a toy. "They share," Zinar noted. "Is this common among humans?" "Yes," Dr. Rivers replied. "Sharing is important. It helps build friendships and trust." Zinar began to understand that human relationships were complex and filled with feelings. The alien observed how parents cared for their children, hugging them tightly and encouraging them to explore. Zinar felt a warm feeling inside. Next, the team took Zinar to a small house where a family welcomed them. The family consisted of a mother, father, and two children. They had prepared a simple meal of soup and bread. Zinar entered the house, amazed by the cozy atmosphere. Pictures of the family filled the walls, showing happy moments and celebrations. "Welcome to our home," the mother said with a smile. Zinar felt welcomed and excited to learn more about this family. As they sat around the table, the family shared stories about their lives. The children spoke about their school and friends, while the parents shared their jobs and hobbies. Zinar listened intently, asking questions about everything. "What is school?" Zinar asked, curious. "It's where children go to learn," the father explained. "They study subjects like math, science, and history." Zinar thought for a moment. "Do they enjoy this learning?" "Most do," the mother replied, laughing. "But sometimes it can be hard work." The family laughed together, and Zinar felt happy. It enjoyed seeing the connections between family members. After the meal, the family took Zinar outside to show it their garden. They had flowers, vegetables, and even a small pond with fish. Zinar was amazed by the colors and smells of the plants. "Do you grow food for yourself?" Zinar asked, pointing at the tomatoes. "Yes," the mother said proudly. "Growing food is important for us. It helps us stay healthy." Zinar wanted to learn how to grow food, so the family showed it how to plant seeds. They explained how to care for the plants as they grow. Zinar carefully dug in the soil, feeling the cool earth in its hands. As the day went on, Zinar visited different families, each with their own stories and traditions. One family had a pet dog that played fetch, while another family loved to sing together. Zinar enjoyed watching them play music and dance, feeling the rhythm in its body. "Why do you dance?" Zinar asked one family. "We dance to express our happiness," the father replied. "It's a way to celebrate life." Zinar smiled, feeling the joy in the air. The alien began to realize that humans expressed their feelings in many ways, from laughter to music and dance. Later, Zinar asked the scientists about human emotions. Why do humans cry? It wondered. Dr. Rivers explained, crying can mean many things. Sometimes people cry when they are sad. Other times, they cry because they are happy or moved by something. Zinar thought about this, trying to understand the depth of human emotions. Do all humans feel these things? Yes, Dr. Rivers said. Emotions are a part of being human. They connect us to each other. As the sun began to set, Zinar felt tired but content. It had learned so much about humans in just one day. The alien looked at the scientists and said, "Thank you for showing me your world. I feel connected to you." Dr. Rivers smiled. "We are glad to share our lives with you, Zinar. You are part of our journey now." That night, Zinar lay in its sleeping area, reflecting on everything it had seen and learned. The warmth of human kindness filled its heart. Zinar realized that understanding humans was more than just studying them. It was about feeling their emotions and sharing experiences. With dreams of laughter, dance, and family, Zinar closed its eyes, eager for what the next day would bring. The experiment begins. The next morning, Zinar woke up feeling excited. It had learned so much about humans and wanted to dive deeper into the study of their reproduction. The scientists had been talking about an experiment, and Zinar was eager to help. At breakfast, Dr. Rivers gathered the team around the table. "Today we will start the experiment," she announced, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Zinar will learn about human reproduction in a hands-on way. The team buzzed with energy. Zinar felt a mix of joy and nervousness. It wanted to do well and understand everything. But it also knew that this was something new and important. After breakfast, they moved to the lab. The room was filled with strange machines and bright lights. Zinar looked around curious. It had seen some of this technology before, but never up close. "What do we do first?" Zinar asked, its voice filled with eagerness. Dr. Rivers explained, "We will start with understanding human cells. We need to look at sperm and eggs, the building blocks of reproduction." Zinar nodded, ready to learn. The scientists prepared slides with human cells, carefully placing them under a microscope. Zinar watched as they showed it how to use the microscope. "Look closely," Dr. Rivers said. "This is how we study the tiny parts of life." As Zinar peered into the microscope, it saw small, moving shapes. "What are these?" Zinar asked, amazed. "These are sperm cells," one of the scientists replied. "They swim to reach the egg during reproduction." Zinar watched in fascination. "They are like tiny fish," it exclaimed. The scientists laughed, enjoying Zinar's enthusiasm. Next, they prepared a slide with an egg cell. "This is an egg," Dr. Rivers explained. "It is much larger than a sperm cell, and it is waiting to be fertilized." Zinar focused on the egg. It was round and still, unlike the busy sperm cells. "What happens when they meet?" Zinar asked. "When a sperm cell reaches the egg, it can join with it," Dr. Rivers said. "This starts the process of making a baby." Zinar's eyes widened with understanding. So they work together to create life. This is amazing. Feeling confident, Zinar wanted to take part in the experiment. "Can I help with the next step?" it asked, eager to be involved. Dr. Rivers smiled. "Of course, we will need volunteers from our team to help us demonstrate the process." The scientists looked at each other, then one by one, they agreed to help. A few volunteers stepped forward, ready to participate in the experiment. Zinar felt a rush of excitement. It was finally going to see how humans reproduce in real life. As the team prepared for the next phase, Zinar focused on the volunteers. They explained the importance of consent, making sure everyone felt comfortable. Zinar appreciated their care for each other's feelings. "You are all so kind," it said, feeling grateful. With everything set up, the scientists began the demonstration. They explained the steps in simple terms. Zinar listened closely, asking questions as they went along. The atmosphere was lively, filled with laughter and curiosity. "Now we will simulate the fertilization process," Dr. Rivers announced. "This will help Zinar understand how sperm and egg come together." The scientists used models to show how the sperm travels to the egg. They explained the journey in a fun way, making jokes and encouraging each other. Zinar laughed along, enjoying the lighthearted atmosphere. As the demonstration continued, Zinar felt a sense of wonder. It marveled at how humans could create life through teamwork and connection. "It's like a dance," Zinar exclaimed, clapping its hands in delight. After the demonstration, Zinar had many questions. "What do you feel when a baby is born?" it asked, genuinely curious. Dr. Rivers smiled. "It's a mix of emotions. There is joy, love, and sometimes fear, but mostly there is happiness. Seeing a new life is incredible." Zinar pondered this, trying to understand the depth of human emotions. "I want to experience these feelings too," it said softly. The scientists shared stories of their own experiences with birth and family. Zinar listened intently, feeling more connected to them. The stories were filled with laughter, tears, and love. As the day went on, Zinar began to realize that human reproduction was not just a biological process. It was tied to emotions, culture, and deep connections. The alien felt honored to be part of this journey. In the afternoon, the team took a break. They gathered in the lounge area, sharing snacks and drinks. Zinar felt a sense of belonging, enjoying the warm atmosphere. "Thank you for letting me be part of this," Zinar said, looking around at the smiling faces. "I have learned so much today." The scientist smiled back. "You are a part of our team, Zinar. We are excited to share this with you." As the sun began to set, Zinar felt a mixture of excitement and gratitude. The experiment had opened its eyes to the beauty of human life. Zinar knew that this was just the beginning of a great adventure. With a heart full of hope, Zinar looked forward to what the next day would bring. The journey of understanding humans had just begun, and Zinar was ready to explore every part of it. Facing challenges. The next day, Zinar woke up feeling excited. It had learned so much about humans and their reproduction, but today would be different. The team was ready to continue the experiment, but they also faced many challenges. Zinar sensed the tension in the air as it walked into the lab. Dr. Rivers gathered the scientists for a meeting. "Today we will continue our work, but we need to be careful," she said. "Zinar, we want to explore how environmental factors can affect reproduction." Zinar nodded, eager to learn more. "What do you mean by environmental factors?" it asked. Dr. Rivers explained. "Things like temperature, light, and even stress can impact how well reproduction works. We will set up different conditions and see how they change the results." The team began to prepare for the experiments. They set up various environments, changing the temperature and light for each section of the lab. Zinar watched closely, taking notes on everything they did. It was determined to help, but it could feel a sense of worry among the scientists. As they started the first experiment, things didn't go as planned. One of the machines, which was supposed to control the temperature, malfunctioned. The room quickly became too hot, making everyone uncomfortable. "Oh," one scientist exclaimed, wiping sweat from his forehead. "We need to fix this fast." Dr. Rivers jumped into action. "Zinar, can you help us?" she asked, knowing the alien had advanced technology knowledge. Zinar felt a surge of confidence. "Yes, I will try," it replied eagerly. It rushed to the machine, examining it closely. Using its long, thin fingers, Zinar pressed buttons and adjusted settings. The scientists watched in awe as Zinar worked. It was calm and focused, and after a few tense moments, the machine began to cool down. The temperature returned to a comfortable level. "Great job, Zinar," Dr. Rivers cheered. "You saved us." Zinar beamed with pride. "I am happy to help," it said, feeling the warmth of teamwork. As they continued the experiments, they faced more challenges. The team struggled with the equipment, and the results were not what they expected. Sometimes, the sperm and egg didn't come together as they should. Frustration filled the room. This isn't working. One scientist sighed, shaking his head. We need to change our approach. Zinar felt concerned. It didn't want to let the team down. What can I do to help? It asked. Dr. Rivers took a deep breath. We need to rethink our methods. Maybe we should simplify the process and focus on one experiment at a time. Zinar nodded, understanding the importance of focus. Let's start fresh, it suggested. We can work together and share ideas. The team agreed, and they decided to take a break. They sat in the lounge area, sharing snacks and drinks. Zinar felt the tension lift as they talked about their favorite foods and hobbies. The laughter returned, and everyone began to relax. During the break, Zinar shared stories from its home planet. On my planet, we work together to solve problems. When we face challenges, we become stronger as a team, it said. The scientists listened intently. They appreciated Zinar's perspective. That's a great way to think, Dr. Rivers replied. We can learn from each other. After the break, they returned to the lab, re-energized and ready to try again. This time, they focused on a single experiment, observing how different light conditions affected the sperm's movement. Zinar and the team set up 3 tanks, each with different light levels: bright, dim, and no light. They prepared the sperm samples, placing them carefully in each tank. Zinar watched closely, curious to see what would happen. As the experiment began, the team observed the sperm closely. In the bright light, the sperm moved energetically, swimming quickly. In the dim light, they swam a bit slower, while in complete darkness, they seemed to struggle. This is interesting, Dr. Rivers exclaimed, taking notes. The light definitely affects their movement. Zinar nodded, excited by the results. We can learn so much from this. However, just as they were about to celebrate their findings, the lights in the lab flickered and went out. The room was plunged into darkness, and the team gasped. What happened? Zinar asked, feeling anxious. Dr. Rivers quickly checked the emergency lights. It's just a power outage. We need to stay calm and wait, she reassured everyone. Zinar felt worried but also determined. I can help. Let me use my technology to create light, it offered. The scientists watched as Zinar activated a small device it had brought from its planet. A soft, glowing light filled the room, illuminating their workspace. Everyone cheered, grateful for Zinar's quick thinking. Thank you, Zinar. You saved the day again, Dr. Rivers said, smiling widely. As they continued their work, Zinar felt proud to be part of the team. They faced challenges together, but they always found a way to overcome them. Zinar understood that setbacks were a part of learning, and each challenge brought them closer as friends. As the day came to an end, Zinar looked around the lab, feeling grateful for the experiences they had shared. Together, they had learned valuable lessons about teamwork, problem solving, and the importance of staying positive. With hope for the future, Zinar smiled, excited about what they would discover next. It knew that every challenge they faced would only make their bond stronger. Big discoveries. The sun rose bright and warm the next morning. Zinar felt excited as it entered the lab. The scientists had worked hard, and today was the day for big discoveries. Zinar could sense the energy in the air. Everyone was ready to learn something new. Dr. Rivers gathered the team for a meeting. Today, we will focus on the results from our last experiment, she announced. We will analyze how light affects sperm movement. This could be very important for understanding human reproduction. Zinar nodded eagerly, ready to contribute. I want to help, it said, its voice full of enthusiasm. As they reviewed the data from the previous experiment, Zinar noticed something interesting. The sperm moved fastest in bright light, it pointed out. Maybe this means they need light to be more active. Yes, that's a great observation, Zinar. Dr. Rivers praised. We should explore this further. Let's try different types of light. The team quickly set up a new experiment. They'd brought in different light sources, sunlight, fluorescent light, and even colored lights. Zinar watched as the scientists carefully prepared the samples. They wanted to see how each type of light affected the sperm. As they set up the tanks again, Zinar felt a thrill of anticipation. It knew that today could bring new knowledge. I can help organize the samples, Zinar offered, jumping into action. It carefully placed each sperm sample into the tanks with different lights. Once everything was ready, the experiment began. Zinar and the team gathered around, watching closely. As the lights turned on, they observed the sperm swimming in the tanks. "Look at them go," one scientist exclaimed as the sperm in the bright sunlight moved energetically, darting around with purpose. The fluorescent light also showed good movement, but the colored lights produced slower responses. Zinar took notes, fascinated by the different behaviors. "It's like a dance party for the sperm," it joked, making everyone laugh. After observing for a while, Zinar had an idea. What if we test the temperature again while using different lights? It might change how the sperm move, it suggested. "That's a brilliant idea, Zinar," Dr. Rivers replied, impressed. "Let's set up the tanks again, this time adjusting both light and temperature." The team quickly got to work. They prepared new tanks, adjusting the temperature for each light type. Zinar felt energized, knowing they were on the brink of important discoveries. As they ran the new experiment, everyone watched eagerly. The sperm responded differently this time, showing varied reactions based on the combinations of light and temperature. The team recorded every detail, their excitement growing with each observation. "Look at how they respond to the heat and the bright light," one scientist shouted, pointing to the tank. The sperm swam faster and more energetically in the warm sunlight. Zinar felt a wave of happiness. "This is amazing. We are learning so much," it exclaimed, jumping with excitement. After several hours of observing, the team began to analyze the data. They gathered around a table covered in charts and notes. Dr. Rivers looked at everyone and said, "What we have discovered today is groundbreaking. The combination of light and temperature affects sperm movement significantly. This could have implications for fertility treatments and understanding reproduction." Zinar felt proud to be part of this team. It had contributed ideas and helped with the experiments. "We are making history," it said, its eyes sparkling with joy. The team continued to discuss their findings late into the evening. They brainstormed ideas for future experiments and how they could share their discoveries with the world. Zinar listened carefully, soaking in every word. As the day came to an end, Dr. Rivers turned to Zinar. "You have been an incredible help throughout this process. Your ideas and enthusiasm have inspired us all," she said, her voice warm with appreciation. Zinar felt a rush of pride. "Thank you. I love learning about humans and their lives," it replied, smiling widely. That night, Zinar lay in its sleeping area, thinking about the day. It felt a deep connection with the scientists and their work. They had faced challenges together, and now they were making discoveries that could change lives. Zinar realized that being part of this team was more than just learning. It was about friendship and support. It knew that each member brought something unique to the table, and together, they could achieve great things. The alien thought about its home planet and how they worked together as well. "We are all connected," Zinar whispered to itself. "Different worlds, but similar hearts." With that comforting thought, Zinar drifted off to sleep, dreaming of bright lights, fast-moving sperm, and the joy of discovery. It couldn't wait to see what the next day would bring. The journey of learning and exploration was just beginning, and Zinar was ready for every moment. New understanding. The next morning, Zinar woke up feeling excited about what they had learned. It could still remember the joy of discovering how light and temperature affected sperm movement. The team had made big strides, and Zinar was eager to continue exploring human reproduction. As Zinar entered the lab, it noticed the scientists were gathered around a large table filled with charts and data from their recent experiments. Dr. Rivers looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Zinar. We have a lot to discuss today. Your ideas have led us to some important findings." Zinar's heart filled with pride. "I am happy to help. What are we talking about?" it asked, ready to jump in. Dr. Rivers pointed to the charts. "We discovered that temperature and light play a big role in how well sperm move. This understanding could help us develop better fertility treatments for humans." Zinar listened closely, fascinated. "So, if we can control the environment, we can help create life?" it asked, trying to grasp the full impact of their findings. "Exactly," another scientist chimed in. "By understanding these factors, we can help people who want to have children but struggle to do so." The team began to brainstorm new experiments based on their discoveries. Zinar felt eager to contribute even more. "What if we look at how different foods affect sperm health?" it suggested. "Food is important for energy." Dr. Rivers nodded. "That's a great idea, Zinar. Nutrition could play a role in reproduction. Let's set up an experiment to test this." They quickly moved into action, gathering different foods to test. They prepared several tanks, each containing sperm samples and a different type of food added to the water. They chose fruits, vegetables, and proteins, excited to see how each would affect the sperm's movement. As they set up the experiment, Zinar felt a sense of unity with the team. Everyone was working together, sharing ideas, and building on each other's knowledge. It was more than just science. It was a shared journey of discovery. Once everything was ready, they started the experiment. Zinar watched closely as the sperm swam in the tanks with the different foods. They noted how each food seemed to change the sperm's energy levels and movement. "This is interesting," one scientist exclaimed, pointing at the tank with strawberries. "Look how active they are." "Maybe the sugar gives them energy," Zinar suggested, feeling thrilled by the observations. "What about the protein? We should check that too." As the hours went by, they recorded their findings. They laughed and shared stories, creating a friendly atmosphere in the lab. Zinar felt a deep sense of belonging. It was not just an observer but a valued member of the team. After finishing the experiment, they gathered again to discuss their results. Dr. Rivers looked at the notes and said, "What we found today is fascinating. Certain foods seem to increase sperm activity, which could lead to new recommendations for diets and fertility treatments." Zinar smiled brightly. "This is amazing. We are helping people." The team celebrated their findings with snacks and drinks. Zinar enjoyed the fruits they had tested earlier, feeling the sweetness energize it. "Food is great. It helps us learn and grow," it said, munching happily. Later that day, Zinar had an idea. "What if we create a guide for people who want to improve their reproductive health? We can share what we've learned." Dr. Rivers thought for a moment. "That's an excellent suggestion, Zinar. We could compile our research into a simple guide with tips and information." Excited by this new project, the team began to work on the guide. They divided tasks and shared their knowledge about nutrition, environment, and lifestyle choices that could help with reproduction. Zinar contributed its ideas and insights from its home planet. "On my planet, we also believe that good health and happiness are important for creating life. It all connects." The scientists listened closely, appreciating Zinar's perspective. Together, they built a comprehensive guide, using clear language and simple illustrations to explain their findings. As they worked, Zinar felt a sense of purpose. They were not just conducting experiments, they were making a difference in the world. At the end of the day, the team gathered to review the guide. "This is fantastic," Dr. Rivers said, beaming with pride. "We should share this with the scientific community and the public." Zinar's heart swelled with happiness. "I can't wait to see how people will use our guide," it exclaimed. The team made plans to publish their findings, feeling excited about sharing their knowledge with the world. They knew that their work could help many people struggling with reproduction. As Zinar lay down to sleep that night, it reflected on the journey they had taken together. The challenges they faced only brought them closer, and each discovery deepened their understanding of human life. Zinar felt grateful to be part of this incredible team. It knew that knowledge was a powerful tool, and together they were creating a better future. With a heart full of hope, Zinar closed its eyes, dreaming of bright lights, delicious foods, and the joy of new understanding. Tomorrow would bring more adventures, and Zinar was ready to explore them all. A fond farewell. The day had finally come. Zinar felt a mix of excitement and sadness as it prepared to leave Earth. After many weeks of learning and discovering, it had formed strong bonds with the scientists and had become part of their team. Now Zinar was ready to return to its home planet, but it didn't want to say goodbye. As the morning sun rose, Zinar entered the lab for the last time. The familiar sounds of machines and chatter filled the air, but today felt different. The scientists were gathered around, looking a little sad, but also grateful. "Good morning, Zinar," Dr. Rivers said, smiling through her sadness. "Today is a special day. We will celebrate everything we have achieved together." Zinar smiled back, feeling warmth in its heart. "I will miss you all," it said softly. "I have learned so much and made great friends here." The scientists nodded in agreement. "You have been an important part of our team," another scientist said. "Your ideas and enthusiasm have inspired us all." As they talked, Zinar remembered all the exciting moments they had shared. It thought about the experiments, the laughter, and the many discoveries they had made together. Each moment was a treasure. Dr. Rivers clapped her hands to get everyone's attention. "Let's start the celebration. We have food, games, and some surprises for Zinar." Everyone cheered, and Zinar felt a rush of joy. They brought out a table filled with delicious treats, fruits, snacks, and even a cake decorated with bright colors. Zinar's eyes widened with delight. "Is this for me?" it asked, surprised. "Of course. We wanted to make your farewell special," Dr. Rivers replied, smiling. As they enjoyed the food, the scientists shared their favorite memories of Zinar. They laughed about the times Zinar had helped with experiments and the jokes it had made to lighten the mood. "Remember when Zinar suggested we test different foods?" One scientist laughed. "That was a great idea. We learned so much from it." Zinar beamed with pride. "I loved being part of your team. You taught me about humans and their lives. I will carry these memories with me." After the meal, they played games together, celebrating their friendship. Zinar participated with joy, enjoying every moment. It felt like a big family, united by a common goal, to learn and discover. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Dr. Rivers gathered everyone for a final group photo. "Let's capture this moment together," she said, holding up a camera. Everyone gathered around Zinar, smiling brightly. Zinar felt happiness wash over it as they posed for the picture. This moment would forever be a reminder of their bond. After the photo, Dr. Rivers turned to Zinar with a serious look. "We want you to know that you will always be welcome here. You are part of our family now." Zinar's heart swelled with emotion. "Thank you. I will always remember you and this wonderful planet. You have shown me kindness and friendship." As the time for Zinar to leave approached, the team gathered around for one last goodbye. Each scientist took a turn to hug Zinar, expressing their gratitude and good wishes. "We hope to see you again someday," one scientist said, tears in her eyes. Zinar felt a lump in its throat. "I hope so too. I will come back and share what I have learned on my planet." Finally, it was time for Zinar to board the spaceship. The team walked with it to the launch area, their faces filled with emotion. Zinar turned to face them, feeling a mix of sadness and excitement. "Thank you for everything. I will take your knowledge and kindness back home," Zinar said, its voice steady. Dr. Rivers stepped forward, holding out a small book. This is a journal of our experiments and discoveries. I want you to take it with you. It represents our time together." Zinar accepted the journal with both hands, touched by the gesture. "I will treasure this forever. It will remind me of our journey and all the things we learned." With one last look at its friends, Zinar climbed aboard the spaceship. It waved goodbye as the door closed. The scientists waved back, their smiles bittersweet. As the spaceship lifted off, Zinar looked out the window, seeing Earth grow smaller and smaller. It felt a mix of emotions, happiness for the experiences it had, but also sadness for leaving its friends behind. Zinar promised itself that it would return. It wanted to share all the knowledge it had gained and the friendships it had formed. The journey had changed Zinar forever. As the stars twinkled outside, Zinar opened the journal and began to read. Each page held memories of laughter, discovery, and the bond they had created. With a heart full of love and gratitude, Zinar knew it would carry the spirit of Earth with it, no matter how far away it traveled. In the end, it was not just a farewell but a promise to continue exploring, learning, and growing. Zinar felt ready for the adventures that lay ahead, knowing that friendship knows no boundaries.